Alright, what is up everybody? It's Richie Rich with Let's Get Rollin', and we're going to be going into one of the most requested video requests on this channel, which is army lists for the Ork Goffs. So the Ork Goffs have been seeing a lot of tournament success. They're doing really well in competitive play. They've actually been one of the top two strong archetypes right now. The top archetypes are freebooters, Goffs, and also speed mobs, and the Goffs are doing extremely well. So far they've taken 3 first place finishes. I think that's even after the data slate changes, so this looks like it's going to be a very strong archetype even with chapter approved 2022 coming out. They'll probably nerf certain things, which I'll go over when I'm reviewing the core units, but I don't think this is an archetype that's going to be seeing a huge hit, and it's going to be viable, I believe, at least past chapters approved 2022. Jumping right into it, why the Goffs? What are they all about? So Goffs are the melee focused clan in the Ork universe, and they are all about crumping, punch people in the face. They're the biggest orcs, they're the crumpiest, and they like to wear all black because they're heavy metal as well. So their culture gives them extra melee hits on a 6 when you roll for hits. So this means that it's generating extra hits. It doesn't mean it's generating extra attacks, so it makes it a lot stronger. This is a huge buff from in 8th edition, where 8th edition melee hit rolls of 6 generated extra attacks, not extra hits. As well, they get +1 strength to melee after they perform a charge move, or even while doing a heroic intervention, which is pretty damn big. +1 strength makes a lot of the units that are already pretty strong in melee even stronger, and really helps to make wounding a lot more consistent with your Ork army. The stratagem for the Goffs, their culture specific stratagem, is Unbridled Carnage. So for 2 CP, no monkeying about, triggers on a 5+ rather than on 6. So you're generating extra hits on hit rolls of 5+, which means you're generating about 33% extra attacks per each model, which is pretty damn strong considering that an Ork boy has 3 attacks. That means, mathematically speaking, by using Unbridled Carnage, each boy will generate an additional hit. Not even an additional attack, but an additional hit. Goffs are the army for people who like to crump. You think shooting is for grots and snotlings. You think boys are the best. You're more Gork than Mork. You're probably spamming in the Facebook Ork group in all caps lock or using Ork Talk. You pray every night to Ghazghkull, your Lord and Savior, and another reason is just because the Goffs are the best, and that's why you should play Goffs. So the Goff Pressure archetype has been around since, I would say, November. It is a more refined version of, I would say, what Rich Kilton used to have his first place finish with the Orcs 9th edition codex. So this archetype really focuses on having a lot of melee threats. You have a mix-up of infantry, which will help you hold objectives and get secondaries like Stranglehold and retrieve Octarius data. And you also have more durable and strong killy units, which you use to trade up in points. The general strategy is you deliver troops with trucks or kill rigs, you overwhelm the enemy, and you just bash their heads, and that's pretty much the whole strategy. So you use commandos, boys, storm boys to hold primaries, and you use it for retrieve Octarius data. You use kill rigs to trade up with your opponent and pressure them. Kill rigs are extremely strong. They are point for point very durable. They also have psychic, so they can deny psychic, and they can also cast psychic. As well, their shooting is actually decent, but most of all, their melee is insane. They have about, I think they have about 12 attacks each, if I'm not mistaken, with the addition of 6s generating more hits and having +1 strength on charge. They're really strong, and they're quite a threat on the field. Recently, we also see Ghazghkull coming in and crumping people in the face. A lot of people said that Ghazghkull was unplayable without Makari, but we're seeing that in this list of Goff Pressure, the Ghazghkull is really pulling his own weight. He's big enough that you can actually plop him on an objective marker and he'll cover the whole objective marker, and if the enemy wants to contest it, then Ghazghkull can take a heroic intervention, which is extremely strong. A lot of people take the Beast Boss and War Boss on bike, and those two act like mini gas. They're also beat sticks, and if anyone gets too close or out of line, you can charge in with them, pick off enemy units, and they're also really good at taking out enemy characters. Armies are being supplemented with Squighog Boys. We're even seeing Killicans being used, so Killicans, Mega Knobs. There's even a list that has knobs in it, or anything that's really durable and can crump. So basic idea is you have a lot of durable stuff like Kill Rigs, Gaz. You got the Beast Boss with Beast Hide Mantle. You got War Boss with Brutal But Cunning and the Killer Claw. And you are just putting on a lot of pressure on your opponent. So that's why you want to take things like Stranglehold. Stranglehold is when you have more objectives than your opponent, then you score more points. Retrieve Octarius Data is used because we're going to be running a lot of infantry. So infantry that's just sitting around, they can retrieve Octarius Data. Storm Boys really help with getting retrieve Octarius Data. It's really easy for them because they have jetpack and you can also deep strike them. Some of the core stratagems are Tide of Muscle. So this is the 1 CP where a core orc unit can ignore difficult terrain, so it just makes charging a little more consistent. Orcs is Never Beaten, which is for 2 CP when one of your characters dies. If it, in the melee phase, in the fight phase, if it hasn't fought before, then it can actually fight before you remove it. This is really strong because if you are out of position with a Beast Boss or your War Boss on Warbike and they get taken out in melee, you can actually swing back. And swinging back with a Beast Boss on Squigosaur or a War Boss on Warbike is going to do a lot of damage. Ground Shaker Shells is a bit more situational, but in essence, the line of sight, the weapon that doesn't need line of sight on the kill rig, the mortar, if you hit an enemy with it, then you can reduce the movement by half and it gets -2 to advance and -2 to charge. So that can be useful in slowing down big threats that the opponent has that need to move up. Things I can think of are maybe those dread suits because they're deadly in melee, those Paragon war suits, trying to slow down things that want to get into melee fast from a range. Get Stuck In, lads, lets you pile in an extra 3 inches or consolidate an extra 3 inches with your boys or your Beast Snagger boys. This you're not going to be using a whole lot, I find, but it's still helpful to sneak in occasionally when you're just a few inches short of maybe securing a primary objective, or where you just want to tag some of their range options to make sure that they either have to make a difficult choice where they have to fall back or they stay in combat and they're stuck with your boys. Unbridled Carnage, like I said before, it gives you extra hits on a 5+ instead of a 6+. However, I find that Unbridled Carnage is not typically going to be your best use of CP. You're typically going to want to be using CP. Honestly, actually, with most of these stratagems, none of these stratagems are really that fantastic. They're not. Honestly, this army, just with the culture itself, functions quite powerfully. The stratagems are really the icing on the cake. The Goff army is not really an army that's too reliant on stratagems, but it's good to have an awareness of what stratagems you're gonna want to use in the battle, because there are situations where they will really improve the outcome of the game. So there are some notable placings with the Goff Pressure archetype. First place recently, there was Marcus Johnson, who took first place at the Siege of Augusta 2022 GT, and that one just happened. I believe that was January 15th, the event ended. Colin Kay took first place at the Lightly Salted Holiday GT. That one happened just before Christmas time. And Marshall Peterson took first at the Westminster Hobbytown GT, and I believe that one happened near the late November. As you can see, the Goffs have been doing quite well in the tournament settings, so we're going to actually jump into the actual list now and see a breakdown of each of these people's lists. So first up, we got Marcus Johnson, and he took first place at the Siege of Augusta 2022 GT. His list, I think, is gonna be one of the easier lists for new Goff players to get a handle on. It's very well balanced. There's a range of threats. There's also enough bodies to hold objectives and to perform actions. And ultimately, I don't think this is a list that you can make too many major mistakes with. As long as you are holding the objectives you need to hold, and of course, that being said, there's always better ways to play the game, and there's always going to be, if you're an absolutely new player, there's always going to be mistakes you make in competitive. But overall, this is a strong list that doesn't lean towards having really, really big crumpy units, but it's not leaning so much towards having a lot of infantry that can get blown off easily. So I find like this is a very balanced list, and honestly, it would be quite scary for most lists to play against. First off, you got Ghazghkull in a Supreme Command Detachment, and then you got 2 patrols of Goffs. So we got the Beast Boss on Squigosaur. He's taking Midas Right and Beast Hide Mantle. We're seeing Beast Hide Mantle being a 90% pick for players who are taking the Beast Boss on Squigosaur. A lot of people are alternating between Midas Right. Some people are taking Brutal But Cunning, and some people taking Hard as Nails. Right now in the meta, it's mostly up between Midas Right and Hard as Nails, as we typically want to give Brutal But Cunning to the War Boss on Warbike. Next up, we got 10 Beast Snagga Boys, and then 2 squads of 4 Squighog Boys with Bomb Squigs. So Beast Snagga Boys, I think that speaks for itself. These guys can ride in the kill rigs as well. They're more durable than regular boys, as these have an innate invulnerable save. I believe it's a 6-up invulnerable save. And they can reroll to wound against vehicles and monsters, which does help because their strength is 4 going up to 5 if they charge. So having +1 to wound against vehicles and monsters is actually quite a benefit, as there are a lot of armies running a lot of vehicles and monsters as well. Squighog Boys perform extremely well. They're super durable. Toughness 6 is actually a lot more tough than most people think. The Bomb Squid is nice because it can dish out some mortal wounds, and they're quite mobile as well. And in melee, they're quite strong, each one having about 7 attacks, so 7 times 4. You're looking at, what's 7 times 4? 28 attacks per each squad, and they're going to be chomping at you at strength 7, I believe, once they charge. So these dudes are quite scary, quite fast, quite durable, and they easily trade up in points. Squighog Boys, I really underestimated them in the beginning of the Codex release, but honestly, playing against these things are an absolute nightmare, and it's going to be a nightmare for your opponents as well. Kill rigs, what can I say? They're just, most Goff pressure lists are taking at least 2 kill rigs. Kill rigs are just amazing. Most people are taking Frazzle as, like 90% of people are taking Frazzle as the first one. And then it's between Bite and Jaw, Squiggly Curse, and then some people are taking Spirit of Gork if they're running Squighog Boys as well. The main thing to take away is just that Frazzle seems to be the auto pick on each kill rig. And then the second pick seems to be kind of optional. People liking Biting Jaws and Squiggly Curse, it seems, the most. Next up on the second patrol, we got the War Boss on Warbike. So it's got Brutal But Cunning and the Killer Claw. So this loadout is really similar to the 8th edition War Boss on Warbike, when it used to have a 4+ invuln, and it could literally reroll everything because you would give it Death Skulls and it would just smash everybody. This is like the old... This is like a return to that War Boss on Warbike, which I like, because that War Boss on Warbike is extremely deadly. This thing will put in a lot of work. It's going to crump everybody. And if the opponent missteps with characters or units that have auras, then you can easily pick it off. And the War Boss on Warbike is a huge headache to deal with, for sure. Next up, we got 10 more Beast Snagga Boys. And we got 2 squads of Commandos, giving them Power Claws each. So 1 8-man squad of Commandos, 1 7-man squad of Commandos. Commandos are really nice. And as Goffs, they are very potent. These are having 3+ save when they're in cover. They have 6-inch movement. Now you're giving them +1 strength. And you're giving them extra hits on a 6. It makes these Commandos really, really, really strong. Having these higher squads, I can definitely see why he's doing that. And there's more and more people playing Goff Pressures running higher amounts of Commandos, because they're just such a nice unit. And for an extra point, they do so much more than the regular boys do. they've just become an auto include in most infantry based lists. Next up, we got the 5 Storm Boys, 2 squads of 5. If I had to guess, maybe both or one of them will be put into Deep Strike and used for retrieve Octarius data. The most interesting thing about this list is that he's running 2 squads of Killicans. So 2 squads of 4, both running Can Claws and Scorchas. Killicans, stat-wise, are really not bad for their point cost, and if you see my review on Killicans in the heavy support video, Killicans are actually quite strong in melee as well because their weapon skill went from a 5 to a 4. They're cheap, they got ramshackle, and their claws are pretty damn strong. If you think about it, normally power claws give you -1 to hit, so Killicans are kind of like a more durable Mega Knob, and they're a bit faster as well, which makes them have a lot of utility. The main drawback of Killicans is that you can't use any stratagems on Gretchens, but realistically, like I said earlier in the guide, nowadays the stratagems for the orcs are not as strong and not as important as before. So I think Killicans, obviously they don't get the benefit of the clan culture either, but just point wise, their stat line is very good. And I think in the current meta, Killicans can be cumbersome to deal with because you're going to be wanting to shoot all your anti-armor mostly at kill rigs, and even debatably the Squighog boys, because Squighog boys don't go down too easily against light weapons. Really, they're quite hard to take down. So when you see some Killicans too, you're really going to be split between shooting at the Killicans, kill rigs, Squighog boys, and Gaskull Thraka as well. I really like the list. It has a nice combination of threat. At the same time, it's a list that plays to win. What I mean by that is it's not a list that's just here to blow up the enemy. You've got quite a few bodies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 group of infantry. Yes, 4 of these don't have OPSEC. Only 2 of them do. But given how strong these units are in melee, I don't think that's going to be too much of a challenge. Plus, you're going to be squeezing your enemy with kill rigs, Killicans, and the Squighog boys. Overall, great list. Great performance by Marcus Johnson. He's coming in at 2,000 points and 7 CP. If I were to base my Goff list on anybody, I would probably test out this one first because I think this will give you a well-rounded experience of what the Goffs archetype is all about. Next up, we got Colin Kay. So Colin Kay is known for his unique spin on lists. He is the guy who really popularized the 3 kill tank list. And he really loves to run like big units and runs things that other people are not running. So his take on Goffs is very interesting. He took first at the lightly salted Holiday GT. And I didn't see everybody who played at lightly salted, but usually people who play at lightly salted, they're not like, they're not chums to say the least. They're usually very strong players at lightly salted. His list is very, very similar to that of Marcus Johnson's. As you can see, the main difference here is that he's taking a patrol and he's taking a spearhead. So there's a difference there. And he's decided to run 3 kill rigs. Interestingly enough, he's taking a squad of bikers. 2 biker. Oh, this is actually 3. There's a typo here, but there's 3 bikers. I'm not too sure what that is. I think maybe the bikers are just for utility. Maybe he's using them to get engaged on all fronts. I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to ask him myself what he's doing with that. The idea of the army is the same. It's to get in with strong stuff and to use your infantry to hold positions and to take actions. So he's taking 2 squads of commandos as well, 2 squads of storm boys. Oh, sorry, it's 3 squads of commandos. So 1, 2, 3. One of them having a power claw, and he's got 2 squads of storm boys. He's got the beast boss. He's got the war boss. But let's take a look at what's different. So what's different is that he's taking minimum size units of the commandos. Okay. Instead of taking beast snagger boys, he's just opted to take 10 boys and make them truck boys, giving his knob double chopper and taking a truck. He's also elected to take a mega dread and take 3 kill rigs. The Mega Dread, if I had to guess, which I am guessing at this point, it's to put into a teleporter pad, take it out of the teleporter pad in the mid game, and to launch it at stuff and just be a headache for your opponent. Goff Pressure, once again, it wants to be a headache for your opponent. You are the initiator. You're the one on the offense. You're attacking. That's why you're running Stranglehold. You want to be on the offense all the time. And the Mega Dread does an excellent job of being a unit that in the mid game just comes out of nowhere. Maybe your opponent's not screening properly. They're distracted. You plop it down. You can even give it ramming speed and just consistently get it in to melee out of deep strike and just cause a huge amount of problems for your opponent. Like I said, with the kill rigs, all three of them taking Frazzle as the first spell, and then one's taking Squiggly Curse, Bite and Jaws, and Roar of Mork. He is actually spending some points to give one of the kill rig Squig Hide Tires, which I believe gives it +2 to movement and +1 to advance, if I'm not mistaken. Another interesting thing that Colin Kay did is take Boss Zagstruck. So I find that quite interesting to take Boss Zagstruck. He's, I believe, 110 points. And if I were to just, again, I'm just guessing because I didn't watch these games that lightly salted, but he would be used like a mini beat stick as well. So you've got 3 mini beat sticks and 1 super beat stick to deal with any problems that might come up, like dreadnoughts, enemy characters that are nasty. You can just throw one of these 4 bodies at them. He does also take a Weird Boy. We are seeing the Weird Boy being played in the Goffs list. It makes a lot of sense. You're running infantry. You're taking the jump. Now, this is not the old 8th edition the jump where you the jump 30 boys and try to charge. This is more tactical the jumping, where you would probably the jump some commandos to get maybe engage on all fronts or just disrupt enemy movement. Also taking Fists of Gorkir so that he can buff up his units in melee, and giving his Weird Boy a super cyborg body, which makes him more durable and harder to kill. As you can see, just like the last list, he's taking Brutal Butt Cunnin and the Killer Claw on the Warbice, just making him a really potent melee threat. The Killer Claw giving that nice D3 damage, which is very significant right now. Anything with 3 damage is very valuable, and there's not much of it in the Ork army, so that makes the Warboss and Warbike an awesome pick. Interestingly enough, he is running hard as nails on his Beast Boss, so instead of making his Beast Boss more offensive, he's opting to give it more survivability than giving him offensive capability. This is quite an interesting list. It looks like a fun list as well. He's opting to take less of infantry, so there's just less commandos, and he's totally got rid of the Squig Hog Boys, and he's going for more heavy units by adding that extra Mega Dread, adding that kill rig, and also throwing in that Boss Zagstruck there. Really cool stuff by Colin Kay, and this is also definitely a list that looks like a lot of fun. It looks like a list that requires a bit more finessing, because now you got to worry about teleporters and having 3 kill rigs on the field. It's going to be quite easy to get traffic jam, but I can see that this list is one that can put out a lot of damage, at the same time still maintaining a good healthy amount of bodies here so that you can hold these objectives. This comes in at 5 CP and 2,000 points, and we got to congrat Colin Kay for his first place finish at the Lightly Salted Holiday GT. Alright, last but definitely not least, we got Marshall Peterson. He took first at the Westminster Hobbytown GT. His list is different from the other two in that he takes 1 Goffs Battalion detachment, and secondly, he takes a Death Skulls Patrol detachment, which I find very interesting. But this is something that we saw early in the Codex release, where people were taking Death Skulls and Goffs or Evil Sons. The reason that they take Death Skulls is that you're giving all your HQ OPSEC. So this makes Big Mechs get your Big Mech and Mega Armor gets OPSEC, your War Boss and Mega Armor gets OPSEC. Now your Storm Boys get OPSEC. So it gives you a little bit more OPSEC, and especially giving it to Storm Boys and your HQs, it does make it easier to be offensive and get things like Stranglehold, and also hold the primary objectives and contest the primary objectives as well. A lot of similarities here in the first two on this list. He does take a Weird Boy like Colin Kay. He takes the Beast Boss on Squigosaur. Interestingly enough, he makes his Beast Boss more killy, so he gives it Brutal But Cunning and Head Wappa's Kill Choppa, not giving it the B-side mantle. He's taking actually 3 squads of the Beast Snagga boys. He's taking 2 squads of the Commandos, actually 10-man squads, giving them Knobs Power Claws, Bomb Squigs. He's elected to take 2 squads, 2 3-man squads of Squighawk boys, also giving them Bomb Squids. He's got 3 Kill Rigs, taking Frazzle on everything except one of them, which has Roar of Mork and Bite and Jaws. In the Death Skulls, he's got a Big Mech in Mega Armor. I like this loadout on the Big Mech. It's actually a lot of fun too. It's the Crushing Armor, Opportunist, Teleport Blaster, and this allows the Big Mech to have Assassinate in essence. So you can try to assassinate stuff with your Teleport Blaster, which is actually quite strong because it's D3 plus 3 damage. And the Crush Armor is good too because you can inflict mortal wounds with your Big Mech and Mega Armor, and it makes it quite potent. It's not super strong in melee because I believe it only has about 4 attacks and it's 4 plus weapon skill, but given that it's not a super big points investment and it's the only other thing that you could really pick up, it's pretty strong. Warboss and Mega Armor, he's making it super durable by giving it Arda's Nails and the Super Cyborg body. So this is going to be quite a threat to remove, and it really feels like in this build he's using these things to try to contest objectives by giving them Death Skulls for that OPSEC and then giving them that Mega Armor. Next up, we got 10 Truck Boys. The Knob also with double Choppas, similar to Colin Kay. Another interesting choice here is the mech with the custom Mega Slugga. We also saw this in Rich Kilton's Evil Sons list, having that mech with a custom Mega Slugga. I myself have never used this. If you've used this before, have some comments on it. Definitely leave it below because I've never used this before. And we got the 2 squads of Storm Boys, just minimum size units with giving the Knobs Choppa, so just 55 points and keeping it as small as possible. So this is a list that is going the opposite direction of Colin Kay, where he is getting rid of gas and he's bringing on more troops. 3 squads of Beast Snagga boys sounds pretty scary to me, especially when you plop them in kill rigs. Now you can just bum rush with your kill rigs, and if your kill rigs die, then the Beast Snagga boys pop out. It's going to be a huge headache for your opponent to deal with. Another thing is the truck too. Since you have 10 truck boys, you could pop in either your War Boss in Mega Armor or Big Mech in Mega Armor in the truck. Of course, they're not going to have the same benefits as truck boys, but it's still a nice way to transport them across the field. Another great performance by Marshall Peterson. He took first at Westminster Hobby GT. This list coming in at 6 CP, 2,000 points, I think is another example of a great list. Let's say that you're just starting your own adventure into Goffs. What should you try to build for? Which model should you buy? What should you really aim to build your army to be? Well, this is what I would call a primer. So this is a 2,000 point primer, and this is probably the best place to start to build a Goff army, in my opinion. So this is based mostly on Marcus and Colin's list, as those two were the most recent first place finishes, and also some other lists I was taking a look at. This seems to be like a solid place to start your primer. So if you start off with 2 patrol detachments and 1 supreme command detachment with Gazgul in it, with these following units, you'll be at 7 CP and 1,380 points. Here you have a lot of room to experiment. You have 620 points to experiment, and you can also move some things around. Maybe you only want 1 kill rig, or you want to have maybe less Storm Boys, or you want to have more Commandos. You want to give your Commandos Power Claws. These are definitely things that you should play around with. So in this 2,000 point primer list, what I would start off the list is by having Gazgul, 2 patrol detachments, 1 detachment having a Beast Boss on Squigosaur, 10 Beast Snagga boys, and 2 kill rigs. The other patrol having a War Boss on Warbike, Brutal But Cunning, the Killer Claw, 10 Beast Snagga boys, 2 squads of Commandos, and 2 squads of Storm Boys. From here, you can add things that you like. I personally would like to test out Killicans, so I would add some Killicans. You could also add some Squighawk boys if you want to see how those do. And I think this is a very good base list to start at with 2,000 points. I know a lot of people also play at 1,000 points. So I also wanted to make 2 primers here for 1,000 points. With 1,000 points, your options do get a little more limited as you're working with less points. However, I wouldn't take any of these primers as a gold standard. Definitely feel free to mix and match things as you see fit. So one option I think you could do is start off with the Beast Boss on Squigosaur. You can give him Hard as Nails or Might as Right and give him the Beast Hide Mantle, and this would be your Warlord. Get 10 Beast Boys, your 2 Kill Rigs, a War Boss on Warbike, another 10 Beast Boys, 5 Commandos, and 5 Storm Boys. And you're still left with 220 points to mess around with. So I think this is a very nice primer. And at 1,000 points, I think it's pretty good too. Whether you're playing Grand Tournament 2021, which if you are, I think this will actually perform quite well. If you're playing more of a casual game where you're just trying to kill each other, then I would probably get rid of Storm Boys, add more Commandos, and finish the list off with either Squighawk Boys or even some Mega Knob, something durable and killy. But if you're playing a more objective based game like Grand Tournament, then I would probably add more Commandos or Storm Boys. Maybe even consider adding some Truck Boys, because those are always useful to have, as they can really get into combat super fast if you need them to, but you can also hold them back and bring them later on in the game if you need to. Option 2 is for people who want to have Gazgull. So if you want to have old Gazzy in your army at 1,000 points, you can run Gazzy. You can bring a Beast Boss or on Squigosaur or a War Boss on Warbike, and then you can run 10 Beast Boys, 5 Commandos, 5 Storm Boys, and 1 Kill Rig. Again, guys, you can always make adjustments. This does leave 855 points, so that means you will have about 145 left to play with. But this is if you take the Beast Boss. If you take the War Boss, you'll have a couple more points to mess around with. I think this would be an interesting list as well. If you're playing more of the objective-based Grand Tournament, primaries and secondaries, I would probably, again, take more Commandos and Storm Boys. If you are playing a more Annihilation style game, then I would probably cut Storm Boys, add Kill Rigs, because they're really a menace to deal with. All right, now at 500 points. Now at 500 points, your options get super limited. If you're building a golf list similar to the list you're seeing in this video, it's gonna look probably something like this. So for the option 1, you have a patrol option. So this is, you have Beast Boss or War Boss. You got the 10 Beast Boys, and then you have 1 Kill Rig. If you're running it with the Beast Boss, you're at 445 points and 3 CP. Option 2 is you, instead of having Kill Rigs, you're just having more Commandos and Storm Boys. If you're playing with Grand Tournament rules at 500 points, this is probably more ideal, as you have more units that can move around and be flexible with. So you got the Beast Boss, 10 Beast Boys, 2 squads of Commandos and Storm Boys, and a bit of points to spare as well. Option 3, if you really want to take Gazzy Boy, you're gonna get Gazgull, either a Beast Boss or a War Boss, and some Gretchen, and you're gonna be sitting pretty tight. Your only real options there are going to be messing around with how many Gretchen you actually have. But hey, Gazgull at 500 points is pretty damn strong, and he's going to do a lot actually at this point range. So thanks for watching. Those were that's my summary of the Goffs. Goffs are looking great in this edition. They're doing quite well. They're also very flexible, which is fun. So as long as you bring melee centric armies and think about how you're going to fill in those infantry slots to secure objectives and also contest objectives, you'll have a very, very strong army. Interestingly enough, as you saw, none of these Goff lists are running what most people consider to be like the top tier Ork units, like Wazbombs and Squigboggies and Decajets. So this proves that Goffs is an archetype that's very, very strong, while utilizing, yes, we are utilizing units that are strong, but it's not like an good stuff type army where you're just playing the good stuff. It's actually an army that interacts with the opponent, interacts with itself, and is well balanced to deal with a wide range of armies. As always, guys, if you have any comments or suggestions, definitely post them in the comment below. If you have a clan that you would like me to make a video on and do an analysis on, definitely comment below as well. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Stay safe out there and keep those dice rolling.